We have coming up next, John Charles Ryan, who is a writer of poetry. I'm sure he's a reader too, of non-fiction and research with an interest in plants, fungi, lichens, and human nature relationships. Between 2008 and 2020, he lived in West Australia and New South Wales. His recent work includes the poetry collection Seeing Trees, a poetic arboretum with G. Phillips, and the prose anthology The Mind of Plants, Narratives of Vegetal Intelligence with P. Vieira and M. Galliano. In May to June 2022, he was interdisciplinary writer in residence at Oak Spring Garden Foundation in the United States, and he's coming to us tonight very early in the morning, I believe, from the United States. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Rose. Yes, and thank you so much to Anne and to Liquid Amber Press, and congratulations on a tremendous publication. Such a nuanced and beautiful production. So it's really my pleasure to speak to you today from Lenape country, the traditional homelands of the Nanticoke Lenape people of the US state of New Jersey. And I'd like to talk to you about the idea to begin with of phytopoetics. I'll just share my screen. So phytopoetics is a term that I've started to use to describe works such as Anne's and such as Peter's that deals with the connections between poetry, plants, people, place, and the idea of poiesis, the old or the ancient Greek term for transformation, and how poetry can be a medium of transformation between plants and people. That's an idea that interests me. It's kind of an extension of the idea of ecopoetics, so phytopoetics as a plant-focused ecopoetics. And I think there's a number of functions that this kind of writing performs. It narrates human relationships to plants. Some of those relationships might be so deeply embedded in our everyday life that we may not consciously recognize them. But when we think of the symbiotic relationship we have with plants, it's extremely rooted in a deep evolutionary time, right? So, but this kind of poetry might also critique social perceptions of plants. There's been a lot of work done recently on how plants communicate and behave and have sensory capacities. It's a wonderful area of scientific research, but it's challenging how we regard plants on a social basis as well, essentially much livelier than we thought they were previously. And this kind of work also inspires modes of human plant becoming, that we are in a constant state of becoming with plants. Their transformation is our transformation. And I think that's part of what Anne's work signifies to me, is this kind of human plant becoming in a particular place. And finally, this work celebrates the particularities of plant being. Now, plants could be intelligent, but I would say that their intelligence is totally unto themselves. It's a form of intelligence that's vegetal, right? It's strikingly different from the intelligence that we are familiar with. So these are some of the ideas behind phytopoetics. And I'd like to read some of my work in this vein of phytopoetics. Now, this is a tree growing on the Indonesian island of Lombok. And the tree is a picture of resilience, right? It's living in a very turbulent environment, which is the coastal zone immediately next to the ocean. And this is a poem in response to that tree. The tree in Indonesian is called asam, which simply means sour. and that refers to the tamarind sour taste. So tamarind. Lombok, Assam, prostrate seeming, slanted into twilight sailing, skewered up through stony rupture, bonsai'd mind of algal sea line, things squall coppiced, splotched with lichen, camouflaged in boulder breaches, pinnate green pate balding leeward, bluffs enclose us lit in neon. Among to sleep scarce roots that clutch harsh cleft between that which was will, make thought as sweet as deep brown pulp from sickle pod of tamarind. And so the poem is meant to be austere and direct and very much like the plant in its environment. One of my practices of phytopoetic writing is in response to images. And there's an incredible wealth of botanical imagery now many times available online. This is a poem called Sanguinaria canadensis in response to this plant, the bloodroot of Northeast United States and Southeast Canada. The bloodroot is known as an ephemeral. It flowers very early in the northern spring, April, and the flower passes by the end of April. So Sanguinaria canadensis, this is a response to this image by Jacob Bigelow from his text, American Medical Botany, 1817. It begins with an epigraph from Bigelow. When taken in a large dose, it irritates the fauces, leaving an impression in the throat for considerable time after it is swallowed. The rootstock is a sluggish creature, inhumed supinely. One stubby appendage looks fleshy as a ham hock. Other organelles awaken drowsily in the tepid heft of vernal dirt. Trichome hairs capillary fine, secreting ever more compulsively. A fusty, rhizospheric speech. In the spring, after the earth softens, after cold residuum subsides, I notice the lobes and sinuses of leaf whorls like parasols through which the flower slides, fracturies of veins underside, a pucun, a pucon, a flush of sunken fire, a peculiar resin, a bitter principle, an acrid fact, sharpens appetite, stiffens linen, hastens circulation, thimblist delicacy, transient vision, tinctured in memory. And that is the bloodroot Sanguinaria canadensis. Also from the same volume, Bigelow's American Medical Botany, is this image, Datura stramonium, the thorn apple. Datura stramonium is a poison, but it's also a medicine, and it was used by ancient people for medicine in various parts of the world. So this poem opens with a quote from the herbalist Gerard from 1597. The ice of thorn apples, boiled with hog's grease, to the form of an unguent or salve, cureth all inflammations whatsoever. The stippled stems curve like young elk antlers, four-valved, capsule gaping, pericarp electrified, trumpet blossoms gifting ambrosially, anther splay ramifying, shrouded in alabaster voile, rank in growth, foliately ebullient, spectering fields and roadsides, narcotic nebulizer of ancients, acrid to palate, vertigo triggering, pupil dilating, delirium inducing, unguent to taste, whose inspissated juice allays tic douloureux, cranial paroxysm, syphilitic ulceration, and whatsoever you wish from Daturus to give. So I became interested in this tree recently, and it's called an old black gum. Also in parts of the United States, in the American South, it's called a tupelo, and Nyssa sylvatica. It became this is a tree pictured in Virginia, where I encountered it. It's about 400 years old. I became interested in that tree's relationship to this molecule, which is called isoprene. Now, isoprene is the compound that gives the blue haze to the Blue Mountains of New South Wales and the Blue Ridge Mountains of the eastern United States. This molecule is largely responsible for that blue shroud that we associate with those mountains. And a huge emitter of the molecule is the black gum. But the older the black gum gets, the more molecule it emits. And it emits the molecule during the hot summer months. So it's energetically costly to produce this molecule. Why would a tree do that, right? So I became interested in this curious relationship between the tree and the molecule. This is a poem called Penetralia that uses a lot of archaic language. You're ideally torsioned, my three-thronged supplicant, terpenoidally entrenched, my totipotent nectary, unmindful, not less than they, my isoprene spurged brimming, apportioned beautifully, carbon clarion, lipid bolstering, light scattering, auric shroud, my dimmed tumescence of tendriling tranches, tonguish veluti lingua, deciding not to decide not, yet fecundated, not yet, volatile torque of reminisce, your inveigling molecules bluing by inebriation, ensorcel me in plenitude. My body, my brutally pangs this innermost spasm, churnicles exposing such sudden diffusion of self, inking polymers everward, haloing metamorphic halo, time shorn from which you see raw-worn petrol reek, whiffed meat of interlaced vein, pulse you, prana-like through, moist a wheedling current in acidic stratum conglomerate. Beyond my bare knuckled clasp through, though within clinch of twine to dissipating, non-mine, my pyretic trembling and seasonal rhyme, Russell's accumulation of tetrahedral twinching, obstinate refusal to unalloyed, mine too, methyl 1,3-butadiene, scavenging, liberally consorting. In haste, plethorizing, my embody how brutally you shod, my precocial cinch, my meme and wraps outwardly and scuttled in time volvulus, deposited in schists and crottles, titanically minuscule sinnewing, glaciating my claws, my scripting your bidding till. And I'd like to end on two sonnets, modified sonnets, or I like the term versicles as well. I think versicle might suit this. This is the first is called Canticle. Sentinel, I dwell in this quadrangle. Gone at dusk as they come, I curl on. Song cleaves the crisp mucus air. I belong to decibels impelled at odd angle, accessible to larks who embrangle. Along my fugue, brisk, up-draughted, headlong brawn is born of golden pollen thread song, falsetto at depth of dark tangle. When by dusk, courtyard flush with canticle, and wood swallows croon lunar euphony, even I blush with moonlight in my cell, and all good hollows of me gush dulce. Again, in every sleeping particle, this harmony wakes and swallows me. And that's written in the voice of a she-oak in the courtyard of the University of New England in Armidale. And I'll close with this poem, This Tree Mourns the Loss of You. Once I gave you everything, when once was something between us, which was ours, yes, but now you think love is something about everything and nothing about everything but something, So we live as two obscure anythings in the dust of beingness, because if you're thinking, you must live with faith in a thinking anything into being. When I said to you once, thought is as old as things seen from bare ledges we climb, and as vast as chiasmus as these, as into the everythings of mind, of the things of love as loved in time. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Goodness, haven't we had some amazing treats tonight? That was absolutely beautiful and very, very moving.